Right, hi everybody. My name is Martin Ranscombe and welcome to my new series called Tune Into the Beat. By which I mean that we're going to learn a technique by which we can actually create our own sense of groove, as we might call it, a way of creating good feel. So how do we go about that? I mean, is that something we're just born with and then we're lucky, and then most of us, like me, are not? So we're just stuffed forever? Or can we actually do something about it? Well, I think we can do something about it. And I've developed this technique which I call groove visualization. I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but it describes very well what we're going to do. So what I want to do is actually take you through my process for how I can develop that sense of feel or groove, depending on who you speak to. That's really what we're talking about. As drummers, we're often told to practice along to a click, for example, or a metronome, and that's a good way of developing our sense of time. Well, this is a bit more than that. I mean, it's good to practice to a click, and I would encourage you to keep doing that. Practicing along to records, of course, is another good way of getting into the groove of something. But I'm going to work on the principle here that most of you have either been playing for a little while or have played different styles, and I'm hoping that you're all going to be keen to listen to lots of different styles of music, even if it's ones you don't perhaps listen to or play along to now. And this is a great way of developing a sense of inner groove, which you can do at home or in your studio, and then you can apply it to your actual playing situation. Okay? So I'm going to start off with describing how I would apply that to the simplest of grooves, the 8th note groove. We all learn it, don't we, and then abandon it pretty much straight away, which is a real shame. It's the money-making groove. It's the one that, if it's played nicely, can make such a big difference. Okay? So I'm just going to take you through that process. All right, so what I'm actually going to do to start with is play an 8th note rock beat or pop beat that's played exactly as it would be in a textbook. In other words, the hi-hat is played 8 times, all evenly, with a bass drum on 1 and 3 and the snare drum on 2 and 4. Okay? Now, just before I start, I'm going to put my earplugs in, and I hope that you all do that when you're playing, because I know it can be very cool not to do something like that, but it's not very cool if you can't hear in 10 years' time. So I suggest you put them in, okay? Okay, right. So as I said, I'm going to play this groove just straight, all right, as it would be in the textbook. So nothing wrong with it, just lacks something. Okay, here we go. Okay, so that's an example of how it would sound if we were being very machine-like or robotic about it. But like I said, I want to get some feel into that, and the essence of how we do this really is to understand the concept of swinging notes, whether that be a shuffle or the jazz ride swing pattern that we're sometimes familiar with. The idea is that we're going to change the way we do that. So if I was playing that straight, and I might want to do that if I wanted to emulate, for example, a dance groove that's been programmed. There's not usually a great deal of swing on that. But so if I was going to do this straight, in my head, I would be thinking a bit like a machine. Okay? But if I want to swing it, I'm actually going to vocalize in my mind, or visualize, I should say, the idea of swinging the 16th. So it becomes okay? So once again, just with the sticks, straight, and if it's swung, okay? And you'll be able to see how this makes a change, all right? So I'm going to play straight, and then in my mind I'm going to change to swinging it, and hopefully you'll be able to see how that changes the sound of how I play the groove. Okay, here we go then. So straight in my mind, start with, Then I'm going to change. You won't know when it is, but hopefully you'll be able to find out. All right, here we go. Okay, now you may have been able to tell, I'm sure, from my body language how I started to kind of dance with myself, but that's basically the idea. And I always say that if you can't make yourself dance when you're playing the drums, then you can't expect the audience to either. All right, so whether you're playing dance music, you might be sat there going, yeah, that's all right, I only play rock, I don't have to make people dance. Rubbish. We all have to kind of make the audience dance. At the end of the day, our job as musicians is to communicate an emotion and convey some kind of feel to people. So it's not good enough just to simply sit there and play a beat and hope it fits with the music and hope it kind of entertains the audience. You've got to try and convey the vibe, if you like, okay? All right, so just extending that idea a little bit more then. Taking our very basic groove. In my head, I'm going to be using these swung 16th notes, and I'm going to start to just explore a few more ideas, keeping the beat simple, but just kind of adding a bit of spice. Okay, here we go. So, okay, so the idea is that when I'm playing, albeit very simplistic fills there, I'm still keeping that sense of groove happening. That's very important, and it will affect the way you actually play the groove. So try and keep that going, not just on the main beat, but try to use that idea and develop it, add some dynamics to the playing. One of the big challenges I think that we as drummers often face, whether we're beginners or indeed old dyed-in-the-wool players, tendency when we're playing 8th note grooves to throw in these 16th note or even 32nd note fills. Don't have to do that. Sometimes a very simple but dynamic hit, if you like, could make a massive difference by just being on its own, okay? So just think a little bit about that. Get your groove on, okay, and just by doing that kind of idea. And I'm going to see you next time for the second lesson, which will be using 16th notes and how we can develop that idea. Okay? See you next time.